All right, today we are going to take some product images from an old site. We're going to cut out the backgrounds. We're going to optimize those images and we're going to install them into a new Squarespace site. The tools we're going to use for this is a program called Remove.bg, which will remove the background, makes it super easy. There's a website for it, and there's an app you can download if you'd like. The old website we're going to be working on is thepelicanshop.com, and then this other one, this new Squarespace site, is thepelicanshop@squarespace.com. This is the old website, and what it has is these different descriptions of the things that they can do with custom cases. So we have this etchings, engravings, badges, camouflage, decals. And when you want to view these, what you're going to do is you can kind of click through, and then you can look at those images, hit the back button on these guns, click through, and then click through again, right? There's a lot of clicking. And so for the new site, what we're doing, we have a new section for these different services, and you can page through all the different etchings and engravings and look at that without having to leave the page. We've cut all the backgrounds out, so we have a little slightly different look on this new website. So the way we're going to do this is that we're going to download the product images from the old site. They are in categories. We're going to move the background of the images and optimize them. We're going to install them into gallery blocks, which are these blocks running as slideshows. They're called gallery blocks in Squarespace. We're going to add these titles and descriptions there so people can read a little bit about what they're looking at. And we're going to be able to repeat this when the client wants to put up new examples or add a new category. And when we're all done with this, you're going to be good at being able to prep and optimize high quality images that are going to download quickly because you've optimized them and they're installed. You're going to be able to install these into Squarespace galleries and create the product slideshows. You're going to understand how to lay out multiple galleries on a page, and you're going to understand the differences between galleries and summaries. The reason why we're doing this is because high quality images that a visitor can easily scan without having to click through different pages will make it easier and faster for them to learn about what we're trying to show them, and then we're going to get them to convert better. The old site is an old Drupal site. It's not secure. It would be expensive to get it secure. Editing the old site is a lot harder than with the new Drupal site. And the removing of the backgrounds is what kind of gives us a look that's a bit different than what everybody else does. There's a lot of companies out there that are reselling cases, and they're all using white backgrounds. And so this is going to make us stand out a bit different, and it kind of accentuates the fact that we do custom cases. So that's our plan. So this is the old site, and I've got a screen capture here because what's going on is that the site is not secure. And something has happened to where I think browsers are looking a little bit more closely for unsecure images and whatnot, assets actually within the site, and you're going to see a bunch of broken images. And what you need to do is you need to right-click on one of those images, and it's going to tell you your connection isn't private. You're going to hit this advanced button, and then what you want to do is you want to hit this proceed to the Pelican shop. It says it's unsafe, but that's just because there's no secure certificate. Once you open that up, then you can reload the page, and then the images will come up. So at first you're going to see a bunch of broken images. Once you accept that security requirement the first time, then they should come back up. Now, that being said, when you need to save these images from the old site, what I've noticed is that the browsers won't let you do that because it's, again, having a problem with the security. And so what I've done is I found that Firefox actually works in this particular case. Now, you probably won't run into this too often, but in the case of trying to get these images accessible, I use Firefox. When I go to the page, and again, let's say I want to do these decals. So what I do is I will right-click this, save the image, and then I'll save the image. And here I've saved it down to some categories I made on my local drive, and I save the image and it works. Now, when you try it with Chrome, or you try it with Brave or some of the other browsers, you'll probably get an error like this, failed network error. So Firefox works. And once we've saved all those images down, what we're going to want to do is we're going to remove the background. So if I were to open up this image, there is a white background that this product is on. So I'm going to go to a site that's called Remove.bg. Now, Remove.bg is remove image background. And there's a couple different ways you can do this. If you're at the website, I've created an account and I can give you my account. So you can use the credits because it basically costs about $1 per image to do that. If you buy it in batches, you get a discount on that. But it's way faster than to try and cut this stuff out in Photoshop, so that's why I use it. So this one allows you to just drag an image. So I'm going to drag this image over here. So I drag this image up there. It's kind of giving me a preview. It's showing me how it's already cut it out, and you can see that checker box. And so I usually always go with a high resolution, and this is not as big as I'd like, but it's the biggest as we've got. And so we'll download this high resolution. It's showing that it's going to take 1 credit to do that. And then I download it. And then over in downloads, I'm going to take that, and it's now in a PNG. It was in a JPEG because you can't have JPEGs with with the background removed. And when I click on it, when I open it up in Premiere here, it's a little bit grayer, so it shows that that background is cut out. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to make sure I optimize this. So this image is 530K, and I'm using this program called Image Optim. So I'm just going to drag this over. And it's showing that we've cut it down by 74% to 133. And now we're ready to install that image into the site. Okay, back on the site, what I've done is I've created some columns. And so I created 2 columns, 2 spacers here so that I could get 2 columns. And then under each column, I've added a text block to kind of give us the category. And then once we edit this, we can go in. So let's add a new gallery. Okay, so I'm going to go to... So we have a slideshow gallery, and then I'm just going to upload this PNG. There's our image. From a design aspect, I want to transition for 5 seconds, show previous and next controls. We want to show those, automatically cropped images. And then the next thing, going back to the content, one of the things that we need to do when we're installing these images is we need to kind of carry along some important information. Now this one has some information about custom decals, but it doesn't have any information attached to any of the specific cases, where if I go back to the gun cases here, and let's say I click on here, each of these has some information. So right here, this is telling us the case, this is telling us who the customer was, this is giving us details. Now this I think is the most important, this foam logo engraving and the case logo engraving, because this is essentially telling us how we're customizing it. These other things are important, but not as important as this thing. So this is where I've decided to make that the title. And then this is some additional detail. The foam type is this 2D density. And then this has this little caption, foam logo engraving. This one has a case logo engraving. And so I feel like this information is kind of important to when carrying that over into the site. And so if I go over here, I'm going to show you 2 things I was doing. So for the decals, since all of these images didn't have really anything, it's not specific to any product, but it's more about the categories. So I copied this information. I'm not using this view examples of our decaled cases and colors below to get we didn't use that because we want to keep things as simple as possible. And so I put that in here. And now the other thing is we're trying to make this for all cases, not just Pelican. So I'm going to change that to brand your case by purchasing a custom decal on. Send us your company logo. This is kind of important, right? They're going to want to know, well, what do I do to do that? And so it's going to tell us. And so I'm going to just italicize that to make that stand out. And then I'm going to italicize these right here, because then if somebody knows exactly that we're looking for these types of file formats, that's less questions they're going to have, or less back and forth. What do you need my file as, or whatever. So we want to think about what the visitor's thinking about. We'll send you electronic markup of your case. So that's pretty good. So I think this covers that. But when I go over here and I click on these, so I'm going to edit this gallery just to kind of show you with the gun cases, is that when I go to an image, now instead of trying to put the information underneath it, so if I go back to the guns here, I took this content, but I took this foam logo engraving, case logo engraving. So I made that the title because I think that's the most important. And then I put in here the details, Pelican case, customer, and then I put the foam type. I didn't include the other one. And so I put that on there. For this one, which it's showing a close-up of the case logo, all I did was there is call that case logo engraving. And so when somebody sees that first image, they're going to see this information like this. Then it'll go to the next one and they see that. So that's enough. That's information that's helpful. And that's what's kind of important, is that going through all the different images on the site and then getting those attached to those images, and then making some editorial decisions to make sure it's just clear and we know what we want focused. And that's how we want to finish out this kind of like display. This is kind of like a showroom display of some of the things we can do. And it's easy, right? We've got these as galleries and somebody can click through, they can read some information, they can get all their different ideas, and they don't have to click all over the place. Same with this. This is cool. See, they'll play with this kind of a thing. So we still need to get our some descriptions within the camouflage. And then for the decals, I dropped in one image there, and I popped that in. So I'm going to hit save and go back, reload the alternate browser. So it looks like what I've done is I've got these sizes. See this, how this is off, how this is higher than this? All these images should be the same size. So I'm going to go and check here, and it looks like what I've done, I'm going to edit this gallery, and what I can see already is that if I go to the design tab, what I've got is the thumbnail strip height 39 and then the distance between. So I think I made these little thumbnails smaller so we can fit more in. So 3920, I'm looking at those two values here, and I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna make them all the same. And that's gonna actually show more of the, right, so 39 and 20. And what that does, as you can see, is it gets us all lined up. So the one thing I wanted to point out is, let me check this one here. Design 38. Come on, get it up there. 39 by 20. A little sloppy there. Get it right. So yeah, so the other thing I wanted to point out is that, so it looks like, I thought all these images were the same size, but it looks like these two are different. As I was looking at these images, I was finding that they all look like they're the same size, and that's why all these galleries next to each other are going to lay out and be equal. And so I need to go look at here and see why this is, but we want to keep them all the same if possible. But that's just something to keep in mind when you're having trouble, when you're trying to put several galleries on the page. If they're not lining up, it's because then you need to really go back and make sure all your images are the right size. So the last thing I want to show you is the differences between a gallery and a summary block. And what I mean is that when I'm editing this page, these are all galleries. It shows that it's a gallery. And when you edit a gallery, what you're basically doing is that you're dropping images in, and then you can put some content behind it, and you'll see that how the content will show up as an overlay. And you've got some design options, right? I can make it a slideshow, a carousel, a grid, stacked, etc., etc. Now, that's what a gallery is. Now you'll see summary blocks, and it can be a little bit confusing. So when I go to a summary block, I'm gonna just add one in. So we've got galleries right here, and we've got summaries, which look the same. There's a grid, there's a wall, so they're slightly different. But what a summary is what it's doing is it's pointing to an existing gallery. So it's a different way to display a gallery. And so let's say I'm just gonna do a carousel. And what I can choose too as well as a gallery is typically this gallery I'm throwing a bunch of images, whereas a summary can be a summary of gallery stuff. It can be a summary of blog stuff. It can be a summary of products. So a summary is kind of can get at different content and display summary versions. Or let's go home carousel. Let's just use another gallery because sometimes that can be a little confusing. So if I do this, there it's grabbing these two images, and if I would have put these into a gallery, I could display these in a summary. And the difference is that when I hit display, I can show the title. Remember, we were putting thumbnail, we were putting the title and the short description. Well, if I have a summary and a short description, it'll show up under here. Let's actually change the content because these images don't have any content associated with the images. But let's say I go to case lines, and we can see that the headline is there and this is the copy. So this is slightly different, whereas when you're putting a title and a description up here, it's going over the image, whereas here it's going under the image, and we have some other different features that we can use as a summary. So it's kind of important to get a good feel for how a summary and a gallery block differs, because you can use them in different ways. So there's a little bit of an example. So I want to find out why these images, you can see how this image is not as tall as these. I believe that these are all the same. These three are all the same size, and this one is coming up short. And so I wanted to find out why. So these are all the images I downloaded. When you click on them, I can see down here that 720 by 481. If I go through all these, 720 by 480 is the rough one. If I go to camouflage and look at those, 720 by 4. So they're all the same. And when I go to this badges one, I've got one that's 720 by 494, 387 by 340, 432 by 264. So this is the reason why those are all coming up so weird. So going over to Figma here, and I'm going to create a frame, and I'm going to create it at 720, and we're going to go to 480. And then I'm going to grab these badges. So that one's good. That one's fine. Well, let's put it in. We should actually do it right. And so now we're going to use that common template. And there's badge 1. Here's another one. Now, look at that was one I didn't cut out. So let's go back to one that I did cut out. Now, I generally don't like to do this, but I think I'm going to have to. As I'm going to upsize it a little bit to fit that size, it's going to do it anyways, so I'm going to do it. But it's not my favorite because it can pixelate it, but I didn't do that much. So there's the second one. I can turn these off. So flat matte versus, so there's a flat matte one. And we're going to try and get this as wide as we can. All right, so now let's save them as the new ones. I'm going to export these. This first one I'm going to do as a JPEG just because it'll be smaller. We don't need any kind of a background cutout, so I can check preview. Yeah, that looks good. Create a new folder here. So I know where those are. So there's one. Now I'm going to, because JPEGs are going to be a smaller size all the way around. Now I'm going to export this, and I want that background to be back. And I have this option that says, now the frame here has its own fill when I click on it. So you'll see when I click on it, it's had its own fill. Show on exports. I'm going to turn that off so I can still see it. And a lot of times you're going to want to have some kind of a background so you can see things, but you can see when I preview the export, it's showing that I'm not showing a background. So that's what that does. And this is actually going to have to be a PNG because with JPEG it'll fill that in with white. So we'll export that. Exported all of those, and I don't want to forget to optimize those images. So I'm using Image Optim. I'm going to drag all of those in. And then as those are optimizing, I'm going to go back, edit this. Now the nice thing about this is I don't have any text assigned with these, so I can just delete all of these and re-import those. And because those are sized weirdly, they're showing up a little bit better. Actually, I don't think I want to custom crop it. So I don't want to automatically crop images when I've got them all set to the right size, because that could give you some weird. And you can see that. So those are all good and optimized. Going to pop those in. There we go. I'm going to follow the order in which was as on the existing site. So we got that, and then we've got that, and then this is resin capped and flat matte. I think that's a little clearer. If I hit apply, looking the same size, hit save. Look at that, good sizing. Everything's nice and lined up. And everything looks clear. And I think that's good. So that's what we did. We went to the old site, importing the images, cutting out the backgrounds, optimizing the images, installing the gallery, associating some important text with that. And we have a really nice display and a small amount of area that somebody can browse without leaving the site, which then, oh, look at that. Yeah, I need a quote. So I think that's what we want. That's what we've done. And I hope this is easy for you as you embark on it yourself.